York City underworld, there are gangsters, killers, and corrupt cops. But today, the most wanted person in the city is a 12-year-old girl.
All right, talking about safe. Well, I guess any sense of logic is not safe in this movie.
This movie should have been called Not Safe, because nobody in the goddamn movie is safe.
Oh, if you were around Jason Statham, no, you were not safe whatsoever. And this is one of those movies. Cyrus was so kind to come pick me up because my car is out of commission right now, so he brought me to the theater. And as we were riding along, I said, man, we were debating on the entertaining skills of Jason Statham.
The relative merits of Statham.
Yeah, exactly. The entertaining stylings of. And I said, I like Jason Statham. It's just in every movie that I see him in lately, it seems like the same action film. And for about the first 20, 30 minutes of this movie, I said, you know what? I was wrong. I was mistaken. This feels different. This is a different director for this kind of thing. It's very gritty. Oh, he threw a punch. All right, here goes. Movie's going downhill now as far as the script goes, because at that point he goes through the movie. He opens up. He plays a fighter in the film, who's also an ex-NYPD cop, and he kills somebody in the ring. A fight that he was actually supposed to throw, and a fight that the Russian mafia had all their money on. And so the Russian mafia comes up to his house, and I'm not going to say everything that happens, but it's pretty tragic. But for him, they said, you know what? We're not going to even kill you, man. We're going to make you homeless. And they said, and if you try to find a home, we're going to kill the landlord, the landlady. If you make friends, we're going to kill them.
Yeah, if you buy a hot dog and you like it too much, you're going to kill the guy who made it.
You're going to slap the hot dog out of your hand and then go back and kill the vendor.
He can't get a job, anything. All he can do is pretty much wander the streets alone. And they mean it. There's a couple of times they prove it in the movie that they ain't bullshitting. But when he sees this little Chinese girl in danger, he says, oh, man, you know what? All right, I got to jump into action and save somebody. After all, I am Jason Statham. I have to do something action in this movie.
One of those weird things, too, because it's like you find out something about his background, but nothing to explain why he would really give why that's his trigger. It's like, really? Why that one thing?
They explained it. They explained it.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't feel
she
like
was
did.
life.
Come on.
The little girl is actually.
I don't want to go into it. They do explain it.
Well, she's on the little girl is on the run. The little Chinese girl. What's her name? Because that was a cute little girl. I don't want to sound like Woody Allen or anything, but
Catherine Chan.
It's too late.
Well,
yeah.
It's funny because today, thanks to Woody Allen, you can't say a little Chinese girl is cute without somebody saying, "Oh, really, Woody Allen?" But
hey, man, Woody Allen has been happily married for the last over decades.
I ain't hating on
you
him
can't
no
talk
more.
shit about him no more.
I'm not hating on him. I'm talking about the people who want to throw that shit at me because I said the little girl was cute.
That little girl is now a grown ass woman.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not just
she ain't running.
But this little girl in the movie who plays a little girl named Mel, it turns out she's a genius, and she's not only wanted by the Russian mob, but the Chinese mafia is after her too, because she has been able to memorize all these codes that leads to some big secret in the movie. And see, that's what I'm talking about. At the beginning of the movie, you see him kill this guy. You don't even really see it. It's implied that he walks into the camera. You hear a bunch of fight sounds, the bell rings, and it's like, then they get into this whole thing of him just wandering the city, feeling guilty for what's happened in his life, not being able to make friends, and he doesn't fight anybody for a long time. And I was thinking to myself, man, this is interesting. Jason Statham in an action movie not actually fighting anyone. And then it gets to a point where he has to hit somebody, and I think he hit the scriptwriter first because that's when. But whatever they set up in the movie in the beginning, where it kind of felt like this is still not a great story, but this is interesting. This feels cool. It's at that point where it turns into an I would say not really average, but it turns into that Jason Statham movie.
I think we are almost on opposite sides here with that, actually, because it wasn't until he threw a punch that I went, "Oh, finally!"
Finally, something is going on. Yeah,
because
I'm with you on that.
Before that, I mean, the way they're setting up his character is interesting. I'll hand you that, but it's not really about him for the first 30 minutes or so. Mm-hmm. It's about following the little girl and the mobs involved, who are all like, so diabolically evil. They do everything but tie her to a railroad track. I mean, it's just laughably evil. I mean, you got James Wong as the head of the Chinese mob here. And he's great. I love him. But yeah, he's basically playing Lo Pan for all extensive purposes.
Who was
He's just
a Chinese girl with green eyes
from Big Trouble in Little China.
Exactly. But like, come
Say that
on.
about everything he does.
Well, I guess that's.
Well, you know, he's great. He's just
got
great.
such a distinctive voice. Like even when he's Poe's dad in Kung Fu Panda, he's still Lo Pan.
But he's just so fucking creepy. That's what I mean. That's all he needs to be in this movie, especially for Jason Statham. Because I don't think watching this movie, I was like, I don't think there's ever going to be a point where Jason Statham starts beating the shit out of this old fucking man. You know. But
they wanted to make another Jason Statham movie and fool you into thinking it was something else.
Yeah.
And for a while, they fooled you into thinking it was something
they
else.
almost fooled my ass because I was sitting there and I'm like, wow, you know, it's been like 20 minutes and nothing really. You know, hey, I ordered pepperoni with this pizza. I'm like, let's come on, let's get to it. And you know, the thing is, I think Jason Statham finally realized that because not only does he like realize, oh, I got to punch somebody.
This goes on, a lot of innocent people are going to get hurt. Want that? Good. Then do what I say.
Я за девчонкой, а ты пошел за ним.
But you know what? I gotta look good doing it. Yeah. So I love the scene where he has to go buy himself a suit, you know, just so I can go, oh, that's Jason Statham. That's some fucking other guy.
For a moment, he had to go get, you know, he was walking around those dirty ass clothes, and then he had to go get his transporter coat.
Yeah, exactly. He had to suit up.
Remember me now?
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't just have to punch. He didn't just have to punch somebody. Apparently, he decided he has to punch everybody because this is like Jason Statham versus the city of New York. It's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna punch every fucking person in this city.
And that was what's great about it because I mean, you know, the thing is, Jason Statham is only as good as his villains, I think, sometimes. And with this, there were so many fucking bad guys that just did not give a shit about anything to where even the police department are bad guys where it's like, wow, it's almost like, man, this is goddamn Arkham City this guy's stuck in. I mean, everyone is a villain.
I normally don't like Jason Statham movies at all. As a matter of fact, I've been like, I don't really see that big of an appeal to this guy. I mean, I guess he's different. You know, it's like, hey, we got an action hero who's balding. That's okay. That is new. He's got that British accent.
He can fight everything but his hairline.
He had Bruce Willis, but he didn't have a British accent.
But everybody's digging that. And most of his movies I've just seen, I just thought they're just kind of dumb. I was like, all right, even The Mechanic. I was like, I like it for a while, but then. And coming into this, I was like, wow, I can't believe all the critics showed up for a Jason Statham movie. But everything you guys are not liking about it, the way that duality of like, oh, it seems like it's one thing, but it's something else. I tend to like movies like that. And the way this started out, I was like, wow, it's actually more, it has this kind of indie feel to it. It's a little bit more creative. And then it comes into the action stuff. It made me think of movies like Haywire and Hannah and even what's the movie? Unleashed. Is that the name of it?
What, the one with Jet Li?
Yeah, the one with Jet Li. Yeah. The way I was like, you know what? I'm into this story without the fighting. And and when the fighting comes in, I was like, well, that's cool. You got Jason Statham pull a little bit in there. And then once it starts getting into like, it's over the top where you got the Russian mob, the Chinese triad, and even the New York cops. But I was like, you know, there's just something kind of fun and creative about this. And even it just kept pulling out little surprises. People die when you don't expect them to. The way the Chinese come into a hotel full of people and just like, we're just gonna start shooting everybody. You guys, hey, Eric, keep moving. If you don't, I'm gonna kill you like this. Blam! It's like, damn, you guys don't give a fuck.
That's a plus and a minus because if you're watching the film, it sets up as at the beginning, you're like, okay, well, I guess you're trying to be more dramatic, but then suddenly it's almost another Sin City film. It's like, this is so over the top that you can't possibly believe this is real.
And it needed to be.
I think the reason I never felt like Sin City or like to the level of the other Jason Statham movies, because even though he was a great fighter, he wasn't a superhero. Like, you know, like the way the Transporter movies will just get, like, especially the sequels, they'll just get so stupid. They just go like, fuck physics, and he can do whatever he wants. And it's still like, it's more, he's doing more than the average guy, just like Bruce Willis does, but it never went past a Bruce Willis level.
But, you know, despite all that, this movie is exactly what it needed to be, especially when it was getting over that 20-minute mark. It was one of those movies that, you know, you would catch on like Cinemax or HBO late at night where you just want to see a balls out action movie.
Yeah.
And this is, this movie is that, and it's the very definition of that. And I have to give credit to the director because there's moments in this movie where the action scenes are so fucking crazy over the top, but well filmed to where you feel every punch, you feel people fucking, breaking through glass. I mean, and I was just like, wow, and there's some like really nice kind of twists and turns at the end of this movie that are really dug, that I'm like, wow, that's pretty smart, because I don't know how many times I've seen this scenario played out to where, wow, you actually thought about the scenario and actually did something logical with it for once.
Yeah. There's one that was really juicy toward the end, which I don't say anything about, where you're like, oh, here we go. And it's like, oh, what? What? That was awesome.
I mean, I don't get me wrong. See, the director for this movie is Boaz Yakin. You guys were mentioning some of the movies he's made. I was like, oh, wait a minute, I know that director. And this is kind of a unusual. I literally know that director. I had dinner with him last week. But,
you and Carlisle.
Yeah, exactly, man. We had a burger. But he directed Remember the Titans, and before that, he directed Fresh. And Fresh was a very independent type movie. So during that first 20 or 30 minutes I'm talking about, that's how it was filmed. It was very shaky cam. The music was low key. And you follow Jason Statham on the streets, and they're filming these people who look like they're actually real street people around him. And don't get me wrong, I found that interesting. But yeah, when there's a point where you can have Jason Statham reading a children's book, and he's gonna say "fuck it" and hit the teacher. You know what I mean? He's gonna punch something, and that's where he just almost like he just said "fuck it."
The little train you could go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Mary had a little fuck this.
I can see him throw the book down and shoot it.
Yeah. Kids are running and shit. Take that book. But when that movie turned into an action film, it turned into one of the dumbest movies I've ever seen. And I had the best time watching it, man. I didn't get it. They asked me when I came out, and they asked for my comment, because they give us these comment things right now. I said, man, this movie was dumb, and I don't give a fuck. I said, I had fun with this, because I think there's something to be said about a director who does these kind of who falls into an action movie like this. We begin to see them bring a sense of that realism that with the Transporter movies, where the reason why, because this movie defies physics too. Don't get me wrong.
I'm not saying it doesn't, but not to that level.
But see, here's the deal. Yeah, exactly. Because in the Transporter movies, you see Jason Statham jump over something. It's obviously a CG man or some or green screen shit going on. Here, even though it's ridiculous, it feels real. Did you know, people, that you can actually land from a 3-story window as long as you land on a Chinese man? Sure. And you can walk away. And now, in the Transporter movie, that would have looked dumb. This director actually made it kind of look cool.
He did.
I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's stupid, but damn, that looked badass.
He made it look like it worked, where I'm like, I'm going to try that. I'm going to look for a fat Chinese man, and I'm going to fucking jump on his ass.
Call Hai. He went Hai's Vietnamese, right? But still.
He's not that fat. I ain't trying to kill myself. Come on.
But see, this movie, man, it get all the characters. I'm going to tell you right now, none of these characters are great. I mean, before, where it seemed like it was cool, the characters get dumber as it goes along. They say some terrible lines. The people have the worst lines in here are the crooked cops.
Oh, yeah.
You coming back around here, Jason? We told you not to show your face around here again. Why don't you just kill yourself, huh?
Well, they have Robert John.
Throw us under the bus.
They have Robert John Burke as like sort of a corrupt police captain here, who I loved on Rescue Me. He was so good as I think he was like the older cousin of Dennis Leary's character, and there was a reformed alcoholic priest. So good. So I'm like, oh, I love this guy. He's going to be great here. And then you're like, dude, what are you doing? It's so exaggerated and ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the thing. Like when I said before, it's not realistic. I'm not talking about the physics. I'm talking about the city itself and the plot and the way things that people say are so over the top preposterous that I was like, all right, so you can laugh with the movie. I was laughing at the movie the whole time. I was still having fun, mind you, but I wasn't sure that's what they intended.
I always felt like the movie was intending to have that sense of fun. To like I never felt like the movie, oh, this guy's too stupid to know that you can't do this. I'm like, no, this is a guy, you know what? He's watched a bunch of John Woo movies and saw what worked and what was tired, left that stuff that was tired. It's like, hey, put my own spin on it and go with it. And people, you know what? I mean, I didn't see where anything in this movie, like any dialogue or anything that happened, was more so than the raid. I was like, okay, it's the same kind of thing.
Because you couldn't understand the raid. It was Indonesian.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
There's no dialogue in the raid.
When a movie is foreign, you go like, well, it's their sensibilities, and I give it a pass. You kind of let it go. But I don't think this did anything different than that.
I can't
let you. I cannot let you do that. I cannot let you do that.
I was there with you for a little while, just like this movie, but then
The raid is something where the raid has such great choreography. Yeah, it's far-fetched, but the raid has a beauty in its action scenes. This is really not anything above the usual action that we see, except that maybe it's filmed a tad bit better. There's good choreography, not like the acrobatics that we see in the raid. Nothing like that.
And this is like, I mean, as far as Jason Statham films go, they've always got 2 to 3 set pieces in the middle of the fighting that you're like, oh, didn't see that coming. That was nice. Even if nothing else works, you've always got at least that. And this, to me, just felt like another one of those. Admittedly, a little better filmed, a little better choreographed, but nonetheless, per pound of action sequences, about the same as all the others.
Yeah, but those moments do count in this movie. Yeah. So I won't take that away from it. Which is why, when you just think about, when you really stop to think about the plot, it's stupid. It is really retarded.
You don't even have to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really that much. There's not much. There's not much to think about. But but the thing is that it does deliver on that fucking machismo that you just want to see in a movie like this. Where you're paying. You're gonna go pay to see a movie to get that kind of action. Like just like I don't give a fuck. I checked my brain at the door and I shot it with a bunch of bullets and just like that's kind of what this movie was. And it is, and surprisingly, as much as the only time I really appreciate Jason Statham is when he's in those Crank movies, and that's about it.
That's the best.
But you know what? This is the first movie where I'm like, he's not in Crank. He's not playing that character, and I actually dig it.
Didn't we all like the bank job?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
you didn't see that?
Yeah, I didn't see it.
That's pretty good.
Wait, was that with De Niro?
No.
Okay, maybe I didn't see that. But I mean, anyway, regardless of that, I actually enjoyed him in this movie. So,
well, I'll tell you something, man. I look at this film and there are things that are just ridiculous, and I just kind of go with it. I don't know why, because that whole thing about him, the mob making him homeless. Like, man, do you know how much money that's costing you? Because in the movie they keep saying, "Oh, we're killing people because it's all about good business." And I'm thinking, well, why don't you kill him? I mean, the guy every day because think the guy if
different mob.
If Jason what's that?
Chinese mob was all about good business.
Yeah.
Russian mob was fucking with him.
Okay,
but
they're obviously horrible at business. But no, they're like, I mean, you have the guy going into a homeless shelter. Now think about that guy, because they say we're gonna keep an eye on you everywhere you go. Think about that intern at the mafia where they say, "Hey, kid, it's your turn. You got to follow him to the homeless shelter." Like, God, again.
Not to mention his like thing they're mad at him about is one of those things like, guys, you're the ones who fucked up. He's like a boxer. They put him up against a guy who basically has a heart condition or something, who goes down with a single punch. He was there to throw the fight. He punched the guy once.
Yeah.
And he practically died. What the fuck?
Yeah, but they didn't like him.
But when I see those things like that, why when they have a scene where they actually have him followed into a dumb place, it's the most dumb place in the world they could actually have a mob guy follow Jason Statham. But when they make that point, I'm like, damn, they're serious. But it's dumb. But I'm like, man, they mean business. These villains are badass. But then I don't want to hear anybody say that you cannot make a good video game movie, because there's a part in this film where they raid a casino, and I'm telling you, I'm not even making a joke here. It is a video game. You've played that game where you walked into a room full of bad guys and shot everyone in the room, never reloaded. you actually had that code that let you have unlimited ammo, and that's what they do in here. They walk into a room and it feels just like something out of Vice City or Mafia, where they
smash TV.
They take out the whole room, don't reload once, and you know what? Don't care. I actually had the sound editing in that scene was great. There's a guy that pulled out a shotgun, and just the sound of that shotgun gave me satisfaction.
Well, that's when a movie like this should work. A movie with action movies, there should always be that glorious moment where the sound of bodies hitting the floor, gun shells going off, machine guns going fucking crazy. There should be some kind of symphony to that, to where you can just forget about, which to me, The Raid was a big symphony watching that movie. It was like a masterpiece of beautiful carnage that I just love, where this movie, it is one of those movies where I walked out, I was like, this movie had definitely had a little bit of those Raid moments that I appreciate. But, I think also too is like what I found of what I liked about it is that, I'm always a sucker for these kids in peril movies.
Yeah.
Where it's like you got the little fucking kid that is completely helpless, but you got a fucking badass over here waiting to just like anytime that kid's in fucking trouble, that badass is gonna be right there, right behind you, like whooping some ass, like getting you through it.
I did appreciate that this whole thing wasn't an escort mission. You know what I mean? Because it's like a lot of these, you're like, God damn it, man, come on, really? Is a kid there the whole time? And this, he's like, all right, you go over there. I'm gonna go beat up a bunch of people.
The girl never did anything stupid. I mean, she was
Right.
Yeah, listen, my complaint about the movie is just what I said before. It's dumb. If you see this, there's going to be, I'm telling you right now, any of us in this room who says that this movie is great, I bet you we're going to be the exception, because a lot of people are going to see this and they're going to say, this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's so stupid. But if I have fun with something, I don't know what to tell you. I got to go with my gut instinct here. I know it's dumb. I ain't the one walking in. I ain't the one like, I ain't dumb walking, man, that was genius writing. Boy, that's why I loved it. No, the movie.
If you enjoyed it, you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a terrible. I can recognize that it's a terrible movie. It's below standard as far as writing for these kind of things go. But for action, just for simple action, the only thing that might have bothered me in this was one scene where they drove into traffic. They did that chase scene where they're going against traffic. And I hate that, because in New York, you would never be able to do that. Nowhere near.
That would last 2 seconds. You slam in the car and that's it.
You can go against traffic, but you just be sitting there honking your horn.
Get the fuck out of the road, you piece of shit.
That's a pet peeve of mine. Yeah, I'm going to give this a matinee, but knowing that anybody else out there, you have to be thinking like me, because this is not a good film at all, but it is a fun action film.
Well, I wouldn't even use those words, terrible or not good at all. I thought there was a lot that was good to it. Like I said, I love that kind of indie sensibility it had. Most of the things that you take points off for being bad about or terrible, I could name plenty of Hong Kong or Korean or even Indonesian movies that have done these same things.
Calm down.
Yeah, easy.
But co-host,
take it easy, man.
But co-host brings out a lot of things. It's just like the sound editing, good choreography. That it did have something that was like it pull out surprises here and there. It seemed to have a sense of fun, a sense of a humor about itself that kept winning me over. And really, if this is the first Jason Statham movie I'd ever saw, I'd be like, man, I want to see more with this guy. I dig him. And it just wasn't, because when I saw the trailer, I was like, great. You don't want to just slap a Transporter 4 on this and go with it. And it's not that. It was so much more than I was expecting. But yes, a lot of fun. Just have to, maybe just have to go with it. I'm just like, you know what? I've seen this done, not always as successful. This was more so. It was a high matinee for me.
Wow. The thing is that, yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot what you just said, Leon. I mean, as far as Jason Statham goes, I've always been the person who's like, wow, what is it about this guy that's even let him deserve the moniker of an action star? Because I'm still waiting for the star part to happen, because I get plenty of action, but whenever I see some of his movies, I'm like, wow, those are kind of really generic, with the exception of the Crank movies. Sure. Now with this movie, especially like, after the Expendables, where it's like, wow, okay, he's already in that fold now of he's the guy who's hanging out with the great action stars of our time. After watching this movie, I'm like, okay, this movie, it makes me a little bit more convinced that he probably belongs there. Because with this, there were great moments with him where he's doing a lot of his own action where I'm like, wow, that motherfucker, I don't know how old he is. The motherfucker could be 60 years old for all I know, but he sure does know how to fucking kick somebody in the ass. I was really like impressed, and like there were a lot of great moments in this movie where the action and the fluid of it all just felt great. But, despite that, a lot of the plot was really stupid. So I mean, for me, it is one of those movies that I would fucking just be happy to catch late on cable, because it's like something I want to see. It's a fucking man's movie. But saying that though, I'm gonna give it a rental. Because I think it would be more enjoyable at home than it would be to pay money to go see, because you're not really missing anything in the theater, you know?
Yeah, I've been a fan of Jason Statham. I am one of those people who think this is a guy who's got a lot of charisma. He does have star quality, and I felt that way ever since seeing him in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and then Snatch afterwards. Thought he was absolutely great in Guy Ritchie films. Not so much apparently in Revolver, what I hear, but I didn't actually see that one. But generally speaking, like, he does the same thing a lot, but he has that Stathamness that appeals to me. I don't know what it is. You know how that is with your action heroes. You have those guys. You have those guys that you can't even make excuses for sometimes, but you'll be like, I'll see all their movies anyway. I don't give a shit. You know, I'm that way with Jason Statham. I've seen almost everything he's been in, and a lot of those were terrible fucking movies, but I still enjoyed them to a certain degree just because it's Jason Statham. And this is, you know, it's better than the worst of them. This ain't no Transporter 3, which is probably the worst thing I've ever seen him in. But it's certainly not on a higher level either. I thought that the dumbness of the plot was dumb to a point where I couldn't get behind the motivations of any of the characters. I couldn't believe the bad guys were even mildly real at all. I thought the action, as it was, like I said, it was about on the same level as a medium warm Jason Statham film, and its moments. And you're right, the highest point Leon mentioned earlier was that thing near the end. There's a great little meta action movie twist that you're like, okay, that was cute. I think I've seen something like that before. I couldn't tell you in what right now, but nonetheless, it works in the film. There are little moments here and there that work, but overall, I was right there with you, Ghost. I'm like, yeah, it is a man's movie, but as a man who's sitting at home on the couch hungover on a Sunday afternoon, a man ain't going to spend his money to see this when the Avengers is playing at the same time. Yeah, I'm going to give this a rental as well.
Okay, well, Leon, I guess we know who the real man around here are.
Are we safe?
Till my dying day. I got the numbers. Now you're dealing with me. Hold on.
Are you crazy?
Go, take him out!
You got some balls, Luke.
Yeah, amazing I can even walk.
Safe